worth it. Right? Huge fan. Just as worth $1 million, right? I mean, I'm not just a big fan, but I watch the TV and I hear the girls. You know, he made the comments like Justin Bieber likes to invest and get involved in the things that he's involved in, you know, like that he puts his name on, and it totally makes sense to me. He was saying, Screw was excited about it. Just as much as Neil and Rusty. I'm excited. I'm trying to reiterate that. And then Rusty, it was going to take off. And it was probably going to make it.
On the cusp of coming out.
Reality and probably a multi-million or billion-dollar business. Rusty was just, I told you, this was just in the process Monday night, Tuesday night, of pulling together PowerPoints with his expertise and a proposal for Jeff Arnold started that. He has some people that work for him. One guy's name is Justin, and the other guy's name is Colin. He probably has several other people working for him. Those are just the two names I remember. Rusty's been sort of business buddies with both Justin and Colin for quite some time, or has been introduced to them for a while, and has been presenting the Star Voicemail idea to both of these people for a couple of months. Colin and Justin had expressed an interest in possibly sort of not investing in the company, but helping them along, right? Helping Rusty, advising Rusty. Rusty knew that he wasn't necessarily ready to be CEO of the company this size. So these types of people run Jeff Arnold's businesses and are more like CEO types, so he looked to them for guidance. He was in the process, though, of Rusty, as I told you, Rusty and I realized they needed some money to get by until they could, like, make the product a reality and travel a little bit and get more celebrities and whatever. Rusty thought it would be a good idea to partner up with Collins, with Jeff Arnold's company. I have no idea what the name of the company is anymore. The name ShareCare is ringing a bell. Anyways, he actually, you'll find several emails very last minute. Back and forth with Colin about proposals. You know, this is how much money we think we might need. This is how much money the business might cost. You'll see. I just wanted to reiterate to you that if we're looking for motives here, and I still have no idea why there would be one in Star Voicemail, but I want you to know that it has the potential to be an amazing business. And on that same topic, by the way, I think you asked me how well I know Neil. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, I guess. Everything that I said is inaccurate. I've known him since June 2nd or 3rd when I met him 50 seconds at that little pool party. We've communicated many times since then. We've seen each other, you know, at Neil's house. He's had us over to some social parties. You know, I think he's great. So, you know, I start thinking about the questions you asked me, and I trust him. I think I trust him. I don't trust anybody. But I just want to tell you that it's like I do, I don't know, these are all feelings, right? I have no issue with Neil.
It doesn't give me any reason to...
Zero. And in fact, I know that Neil knows he wouldn't be where he wants to with his business involved. Okay? So that's why I have faith in Neil. I think Neil's very distraught right now. I think he also is trying to probably keep the business going. I want him to do that. It was Rusty's passion too. I'm sort of torn, right? Like, should Neil be sitting in my house grieving with me every day? I mean, that's a little weird. It's not like we were related. but at the same time, Neil's going, I want him to be out there, but you know what I mean? It's this weird feeling that I can't, it doesn't mean anything, really. Exactly. He was there Sunday night, and I'm pretty sure Neil was at my house on Monday night, too. In fact, I don't remember, but I was telling you. But it's not like he was there last night or all day, or he sat with me, or, and you know, understood sort of what. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need to. I've had a bazillion other... I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah. My impression was that, do you want to know my impression?
I do.
That he and Rusty, it was almost like a whirlwind romance.
Exactly.
Things happened so quickly. Both two people sharing the same dream, a very big dream that has such a potential to dramatically change everybody's lives for the better beyond imagination, that they very quickly became, if not best friends, brothers beyond, because they had to spend so much time with each other and work through so many issues that that's why he feels an obligation to be with the family.
I see it exactly the same way that you're seeing it. At the same time as seeing all of that, I've got this Mike Prairie issue in my head that I can't get rid of. And this Josh Miller thing in my head. Both of which I've told you what I've told you. There's nothing new, I don't think, but you can ask me questions about it to see if I know more about it.
Well, Neil struck, from talking with Neil, seeing him, and everything else I've heard about Rusty, it struck me that Rusty was the business, finance, connections person, where Neil was more of the PR person. Sales. And because that is such a big part of his personality.
Oh, huge. That sounds like ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
There's a couple times he was coming across me like a used car salesman.
Totally. Keep saying ice to an Eskimo, because I'm telling you, I've never met a salesman quite that good. And that's my point, actually. Yeah. Okay, so you and I are on the same page.
Well, we feel the same way about him. He has that strong need to be with the family because of his, even though there's not that kind of connection with the rest of the family, he had that kind of connection with Rusty.
Correct.
That he still has that, and along with the stress of how he's lost a major part of getting this dream going, that he also has that strong desire to maintain the momentum of the business.
I totally agree. Okay. So I think we're on the same page. I don't expect Neil to be there every minute, but he also hasn't called in a day now. But I also haven't answered anybody's phone calls, and I haven't been very talkative. So, it's all those things. But I think we understand each other.
Yeah, I'm glad that my impression of him is also...
Oh, totally. You can be enamored by Neil. I guess that's probably the right word, right?
He's a great talker.
He's a great talker. Okay.
He's getting me excited about the idea.
And that's why it was so... Neil was so great at what he did, and Rusty was so great at what he did, and that's exactly why they were like yin-yang.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Mike and Josh, on the other hand, were not part of the yin-yang. And I think that's been obvious so far. And all I'm saying, there's nothing more I have to say. I think you know what there is to know about them. I think Neil would know way more. Laura Hester, you need to talk to her.
Yeah, I believe she's actually called me, so we have her contact.
Okay, and I'm just saying, if Star voicemails a route that you're following up on, which I can't decide if it is or isn't, or whether it matters, because Mike's the only guy that Rusty's ever had even a tip with, right? Like a little, like, and it wasn't just the two of them, it was the same Neil. He could have, do you understand what I'm saying? Neil and they're like one person.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I'm making assumptions that make no sense, because there's no reason why this business can't survive without Neil either. Okay? But anyways, Laura Hester, you need to talk to her, because she's been on every email. You'll see in Rusty's email. She's been on every email. She knows everything that went on in that business. Okay, I needed to say that about the surplus. I told you about Chris Klaus. I told you all I know. The mobile communications thing, that's a Brian. All three. Brian Adams, I told you, was a mentor, business mentor that he ended up getting together with and using his expertise to think about purchasing this business. And Brian indirectly said was sort of could give some money. The bank could give some money. We could have, if it was the right deal, we would have given some money. That was this mobile communications deal. You'll need to talk to him more about that, I guess. But Rusty spent, a significant amount of time on that deal. And there's probably paperwork about it and emails. I don't remember the name of the family that owns the business. That's probably important. Like, I had that information. I do know that they had some weird family drama, as every family business has family drama. That's why they were selling the business, because no one wanted family drama. No one could agree anymore about what to do with the business or how to run it or whatever. I'm just saying, if you're going to go up the business route, he spent a lot of time on this system.
So that was the last thing he did before.
That's correct. That's correct. I keep hearing mentions of this solar business. I have no idea why anybody's talking about it.
Actually, Rusty's father and brother, when they were here yesterday, were able to clarify some things for us with this.
Because I know that there is somebody that came to them and said, we have this. Again, Rusty was looking for business to buy. Once the word got out that he was looking and that Rusty could get money from other people that he knew to pull together, people said, this is one of many. The eye gallery, there's a gazillion. Okay? But nothing came of that. Okay, so you're not asking me questions, so I guess Brian Adams, again, we've talked about several times. Harold Solomon and him are friends. I spoke with Harold Solomon, who really is one of Rusty's best friends here in Atlanta. Best friend and best business friends. Harold introduced Rusty to everyone he's ever known in Atlanta for the most part. You don't have to give Rusty much. You give him a couple and Rusty sort of just goes with it. But Harold is like the center in Atlanta of a lot of people that Rusty knows. Harold's also a good networker. I spoke with Harold, not last night, but the night. He's been at my house every night. We've known him since the first year here in Atlanta. He just mentioned something to me. He says, Harold mentioned to me, he was talking to Brian after this happened on Friday. He says he and Brian are scared out of their minds. Because we have no idea, and because they were so closely tied to Rusty from a sort of a business perspective, not from no money, but they've worked so close and helped him so much. I'm telling you, the two of them think that they're next. I don't think you probably care.
I do.
Okay. So, and that's why I said, Harold, call. You need...
I did get his message.
Okay. Harold knows Rusty very well, so he'll be able to tell you a lot of things, different things about him than what I told you. As does, Brian. Brian's a quieter kind of guy. But I'm just telling you that and Harold Ray, of course, what's going through their head is, could be. Okay, I told you about Bob Attila. I was thinking thinking about that a little more even as we were talking, and, I don't expect everyone who ever knew Rusty to come to his funeral. I guess maybe that was like a over-ambitious, I want Rusty's the best, right? And I know a lot of these people think he was the best, but they also are maybe protecting themselves, right? And not because they're guilty, but people know them, they don't want to think, who knows? They don't want to go to a funeral that maybe has media or whatever. I'm just saying, I'm not implicating this person. I'm giving you their name. I would have expected some respectful response from Bob Patillo given the amount of time that Rusty spent working with him, but I don't know what to expect. I guess I shouldn't expect anything from anybody.
You can have expectations.
Just don't be disappointed.
Right.
Okay. Same with Discovery Point, okay? I feel like I've exhausted that, and you have the file now that has more information in it that I can probably tell you.
Right.
Same with them. Again, respectful people would have come to the funeral. There maybe not. Also, though, I don't know what goes through their head, and yeah, he did work there for a year, and it was the most recent year. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's just...
It's odd enough to make a point.
That's all. Rusty has shares in a company called Dimpledou. I know, and it's actually spelled that way. Dimpledoughg.
One word?
I believe so, but I can't guarantee that. Dimpledou, he did some business consulting for them. They're based in Cleveland, actually, which is just sort of a coincidence. He got introduced to this company by a man named Steve Kirshner. Okay, you should write that name down. Steve Kirshner, again, Rusty networked somehow to Steve Kirshner. Steve Kirshner introduced Rusty to Lamar and to Dimpledou.
How do you spell Kirshner?
I think it's Kirschner. The two of them, Steve and Rusty, in fact, when you go through and you see all the little companies that Rusty started or corporations, his name's going to be on one of them, I bet.
Okay.
They sort of had a little consulting company, the two of them. They helped Lamar. Steve was doing work for Dimpledou and brought Rusty in to do just some business idea planning. They are a startup. They do personalized gift cards, which is funny because it's a personalized voicemail. But regardless, it's like if you want to send someone an Amazon card for their birthday, you can actually put a personalized picture or message onto the card.
Okay.
And they're called Dimpledou. Anyways, he did business consulting for them.
What was Lamar's last name?
It's Perlis. P-E-R. I think it's L-I-S-S. I'm not so sure. I don't believe Dimpledou, if they paid Rusty anything for his consulting services, it was very little. And they sort of agreed on we're not paying you in dollars, we'll pay you in future value of this company's shares. So that when I say he has shares in this company, that's what I mean. I don't remember how many. I don't even have any documentation on it. Maybe Don does. You should ask his dad. And the only reason is his dad helps with our Wachovia banking. So he's our accountant. He is our free accountant. So I know he knows about the shares because when he did our latest taxes in April, even though the shares aren't worth anything, I think you have to report them somehow on your taxes. So all I'm saying is, it's there. I don't even know how this company's doing.
Can I look into it?
And again, Steve Kirshner you'll want to talk to. Rusty worked with Steve for a decent amount of time, a couple of months to a year. Again, I think it's odd that I haven't seen him. Okay? He was also my son's bris. You know what bris is? When you circumcise in the Jewish religion, you don't do it in the hospital. There's a religious significance, Moses, and a million other things I'd rather she can explain to you. They came to my son's bris. They brought a gift.
Came with that.
I haven't seen it. Same with him. Same with Lamar. Okay? Okay.
How do you spell bris?
B-R-I-S.
B-R-I-S.
Yeah. It's the English way of writing the Hebrew word. That's fine. Okay. That's my list.
Yeah. Reminded me of some other things that you neglected to ask.
Okay.
Not business friends, but how many non-business friends, true good friends, does Rusty have?
In Atlanta or?
In Atlanta. That if you, not saying that he does this on a regular basis, but it's,
Goes out to drink with his friends?
yeah, I'm going to go out and have a beer. Who would he go out with?
He never does that.
Okay.
The only go out and have a beer he's done in the past year, there's a Monday night football group that meets at a bar. I don't even remember the name of the bar. It's in Buckhead somewhere. He didn't go all that often, but it was a business networking event, not a social event for Rusty. If we open Rusty's Yahoo calendar, I'm sure again we can see who the types of people are that would go to that event, and we can contact the person. You look through his emails. There's a guy whose name is escaping me at this moment who coordinates all of those Monday Night Football events. And he can tell you who goes. Rusty, that's the thing. Rusty maybe has Andy Littman and Harold. Those are personal friends of his.
Littman, L-I-P-N-A-N?
Yes. And Harold, those he would consider, like, if he had something to share, I guess, complain about, those would be the people he would call. Rusty was so focused on business stuff. He wasn't really a buddy-buddy kind of guy.
Business and family.
Right. And it's not like he wasn't a social guy, because he obviously was. But he didn't see a purpose in having beer buddies.
Okay. I asked you a little bit about this that first night at your house.
Okay.
I just want to go over it again.
Okay.
For relationships.
Yes.
While you guys were dating in college, did he ever mention to you, well, before he met you, if he ever had multiple girlfriends at the same time, or if he ever said, well, I cheated on this girl because I wanted to see if I could do it, or see what it was like, and I found out that I'm just not the type of person to do that. Anything like that?
Rusty was a one-girlfriend kind of show. Long-term girlfriend relationships.
I understand that before he met you, that he pretty much either always had a girlfriend or he always had his choice of people having a girlfriend.
I'll agree with the first one.
Okay.
Definitely, he's just the type of guy that always wanted a girlfriend around. He's a very sort of emotional guy. He's not like beer buddy kind of guy, right? Now, he did have college roommates and he had friends. It's not like he wasn't a recluse, as he said. But he never. What was the second part of the question? He no multiple girlfriends. Always had a girlfriend. And what was the other one?
Had a choice.
The choice, right? I thought that was kind of funny. He'd like to think, I guess, that he had a choice.
Okay.
Sure. I don't know what that means exactly.
Well, like he's single, but he has all these girls that are interested in being with him, so he's like, let me try you for a girlfriend. Kind of.
I'd like to think he probably thought that was true. I'm not sure that was true.
Okay. Has he ever talked to you, I know in high school and college, people would do things to experiment.
Okay.
Has Has he ever talked to you about experimenting with being with another man? Has he ever talked to you about a desire to do that? Have you ever, even though he may not have talked or admitted it to you, has he ever shown to you as possibly being bisexual or have some sort of unexplored homosexuality? Since he's been with you, has he ever expressed to you a desire to experiment with having another person with you, the threesomes, sex parties, things like that? It's always just been you and me, that's it. I don't need to have another person with us while we're having sex. Have you ever expressed an interest in trying that with him? All those questions, same thing for you. Have you ever experimented with another woman? Have you ever had a desire to do that? You told me about your boss. Has there been any other woman that approached you? Yes. Let's talk about your boss.
Okay.
This is your current boss.
Yes.
How did he approach you with expressing an interest?
We traveled for business together, and we were at dinner. We were
on one of your trips?
Okay. And he said what I think I said to you, which is that, he thinks I'm fantastic, and that was kind of it. It thinks I'm fantastic, would love to have a relationship with me, but knows that that's probably unlikely, and that was sort of,
So it was a very polite
very.
come on.
That's right. He really respected me as a person.
Was it out of respect for you as a person or out of fear for keeping his job?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay. That's a fair answer.
Okay.
That's reasonable. Is he married?
Oh, yes.
He has children?
Yes.
Did he go into any further detail on how he would want to work that, trying to persuade you? No?
Let me describe this to you.
Please.
I feel like you're asking me questions that I'm not sure I want to tell you instead of some of it.
Go ahead.
We're close friends, he and I.
Okay.
Even once he said that, and I said no, we work together a lot, we travel together a lot. I enjoy I admire him as a professional. I enjoy learning from him. I learn a ton. We talk a lot. We talk about business. He's talked about his family. We're friends. So it's not, I wanted to be clear that it wasn't just that he said, you're great, and I'm interested. And it's that or nothing? Am I saying that the right way? I don't know how I'm saying it. We continued our relationship.
And you guys it sounds to me like you guys had a strong enough friendship beforehand that this didn't disrupt anything. It was a blip on the radar and you got past it.
Exactly.
How often do you guys go on trips? How often do you do business trips?
Well, at GE?
Yeah.
And I went to Boston, right? Because I worked for HP. I'm talking about the GE thing specifically.
You didn't know your boss until you started working at GE. And since you've still working at GE, how often do you go on business trips?
I went on them once a month.
Once a month?
Yeah, maybe July I went twice. I went to a training class one week, or I went to a site, a software location that we build software.
Where was that?
Linden, Nevada.
Okay.
And then next week I had auditor training. I trained to be an auditor. This is part of my job. Longmont, Colorado.
And
I know it just happened to be back-to-back because of poor timing. That was the July where Rest is like, are you kidding?
That's what
2 weeks of kids and...
not enough time to work.
Exactly. And that's, yeah, exactly. But you asked how often I travel?
Yeah, how many times?
And they're short, they're not, that was a long trip. And then in September I went to England.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, it was great. I haven't been there except since with Rusty.
How long have you been in England for?
A week.
A week. And how long are your business trips in London?
A couple of days, or one day. One was, okay, I can name you all the sites. Melbourne, Florida was the first one I went to. We have a site in Melbourne, Florida.
And this is while you're based out of here?
While I was working with GE?
Yeah.
Yes, all of them.
Okay.
All these trips.
Okay.
Because I work for the Software Solutions Group within GE.
Okay.
And these are all the sites where they have, where we have, these are all the cities where we have software being built.
Okay.
It's more than just in Atlanta. I guess maybe that wasn't big.
Oh, that's clear.
Melbourne, Florida, Norfolk, Virginia, Minden, Nevada, and Cambridge, England. That same trip we went to Scotland. It was Cambridge/Scotland, and if you're there, you gotta go to both places. Livingston, Scotland, and Greenville.
South Carolina?
Yes, the GE makes gas turbines there. That's one of their big products.
Okay.
I visited all those places, and otherwise I haven't gone anywhere else.
And how many of those, of your business trips, does your boss go with you? All of them?
Besides Longmont, California, or some training, he went on all of them, and I'll tell you why. He hadn't been to them either, and it was part of his goals and objectives, and he'll tell you that from his boss, that he needed to get out there more, and he wanted to introduce me to people also, and so he went with me. I could have shown up at those places by myself, but I'm not sure I would have gotten the respect or the attention. So, anyways. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Now,
and of course we traveled together, so we became friends, right?
I mean, how can you not when you
Good
travel?
God, you go over to England, you talk, right? It's a billion hours, you're in the car, you're on the plane, I mean, what the...
Yeah, but you can't help it. If you don't get along, it's not a very long trip.
Exactly. And, we saw eye to eye from a business perspective on a lot of things.
Did the company pay for hotels, or did it...
Yes.
You came out of your own pocket
Oh,
and
no.
you reimbursed?
No, corporate cards, I'm sure.
What
Yeah.
kind of hotels do you guys normally stay at?
I like Hilton's place, so I would stay at Hilton's. Maybe almost all of them. I have no idea if all of them were Hilton's. I'd have to look back. And I'm saying I have to look back and see.
Now, I know it'd be convenient to have room on the same floor. You guys have room on the same floor?
Sometimes. We didn't control it every time.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We didn't always control where the hotel puts us.
You did have control. What would be the ideal situation?
I have no problem being next door to each other. That's neither here nor there. I mean, again, we were friends, and it didn't bother me, I guess.
Okay. Now, the other night when I asked you, I'm trying to remember the exact words I asked you so you can remember.
Yeah.
We were talking about this. You had just talked about your boss.
Yeah.
What kind of reaction from your family?
Oh, I'm sure. I honestly wasn't even looking at it because that's your problem, right?
I asked you, I think it was something along the lines, is there anybody that you can think of that would be interested in pursuing your husband, or something along those lines? Your reaction was a little odd.
Was it?
To that, because it's kind of like right now. You laughed, you smiled, and you said no one would be interested.
Oh, I'm not. If that's what I said, that's fine. I'm laughing now because it's just, again, he doesn't have time to go to the bathroom, let alone have an affair. I mean, it's one of those things that now, of course, through this whole thing, people bring that up and vengeance or revenge, or I have no idea.
There's so many.
Okay, and honestly, he didn't have time to pee. I can't imagine him fitting that in. And he loved me so much and made that clear 1,000,000 times a day. So I laugh because it's
so absurd.
It's absurdly ridiculous. There are actually more words I could use, but absurdly ridiculous. And 7 other words is ridiculous.
Understood.
And I did, by the way, my mom knew about this Hemi thing, that I mentioned it to her. I said, he expressed an interest. I needed to tell someone. I told my mom. I'm close.
She's the only one that didn't jump up.
Okay, there you go. There you go. And there's no point in me telling, the rest of the family. But I don't understand what that's ridiculous.
There is no point.
Right.
Nobody else.
They don't need to know. No one needed to know.
I was no surprise you said that with everybody around you.
You know what? Andy, I want to figure out how to do this too. I'm not hiding. I don't know what to say.
I don't get the impression that you're hiding anything.
Okay. And I don't think that this Hemi thing is anything. I really don't. If I did, I'd sit here and give you 50 other reasons why. I don't know. That's up for you to figure out, I guess, or decide if that's on your list. I don't know how you guys figure out what your priorities are. It's a mystery.
It's one of those things that we have to look into and prove it one way or the other. So when it comes time for a trial, the defense attorney brings up, if they happen to get their hands on the information, that we can say, he investigated it,
okay.
This is what we found, this is why we didn't do anything with it.
Okay.
You guys met 1994.
Yes.
You got married in 2000. And so you've been together for 10 years since December. Covered a lot of stuff today.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing that's pressing right now.
No. I have all these things I don't know.
We have time. You have time. If things are getting to a point where I need this information either confirmed or I need whatever the case might be, if it also becomes urgent, I'll let you know. Obviously, the sooner the better. Cruise information, so that's something that we can easily work on. And so as soon as we have
the table number,
the card,
okay,
then we can go ahead and get that taken care of. This won't be the last time we talk.
I'm sure, and I'm sure I'm going to think of other things too.
I'm sure.
Okay.
And as I'm good. I'm done with the talking with you.
Okay. Are we going to talk about the check? Not talk.
Oh, the check. See, that's why I wanted to make a mark.
Right.
So let me get that information for you.
That's all we need to see, Judge.
You can play as much as you want.
No, that's all. I'm not asking to play anymore.
All right, since you, okay.
Yes, sir.
You may ask, okay, that's fine, as long as you made that decision, I'm good.
Okay. Detective Thompson, just a few more questions.
That's as many as you wish.
Yes, sir. At one point, Andrea said something about offering to show GE records. Did you take her up on that offer?
We ended up excuse me. We ended up serving a subpoena to GE to get records due to their top secret clearances and all that. We had to provide special paperwork.
Okay. And at another point, there was a comment about, let me ask you this. Were you given certain usernames and passwords for various Yahoo accounts and other accounts?
Yes, it was their personal, various social media accounts. She allowed us access.
Did Mrs. Sneiderman give you her username and her password account?
Yes.
Did she give you Rusty's username and password account?
Yes.
Okay. She mentioned something about a woman by the name of Diane Trump, who she had met on the cruise, and gave you a phone number.
Yes.
Did you ever call her?
I had one of my investigators give her a call.
Okay. So is there any sort of record one way or the other if anyone ever called her?
Yes, if it was made from an office phone, there's a digital record of it.
Do you know who that might have been, sir?
I'd have to
And
go
if you
back.
don't, that's
I really don't recall.
Okay. You asked a question about the relationship between Rusty's parents and Andrea's parents. Why?
Trying to get a feeling for family dynamics.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned something about a gentleman by the name of Mark Anthony Silva. Who on earth is that?
I don't recall right now. It's kind of, I didn't recall at that time, and I don't recall. I have to go back to my notes to refresh my memory.
You can look at your notes if you need to. Go ahead, if you want to.
You mentioned something, you asked questions about whether there was any recent work done on their house, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You asked about specifically the lawn guy and the gutter guy, right?
Yes, I did.
Is there a prohibition from police officers or detectives telling a witness to get to the point, by the way?
In certain cases, depends on what you're investigating and what the purposes of the investigation.
Okay. And after a long time into the interview, after asking about the lawn guy and the gutter guy, you did say, did you not, I can't think of anything else to ask. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And that was before the subject of Hemi Newman came up again, correct?
Yes, I was making an excuse to step out of the room because I needed to use the bathroom at the time.
Okay. And when you came back, Andrea started raising issues that she thought might be relevant to the investigation, correct?
Yes, she brought a checklist of things that she felt were important to go over again.
Okay. Now, it is apparent from the video that Andrea had her phone with her during the course of that interview. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you at any point during the course of the interview on November 24th ask to examine her phone?
No, I did not.
At the conclusion of the interview, at least at the end of the interview portion that we watched, the subject of Mr. Newman came up again, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at the conclusion, Mrs. Sneiderman does say she doesn't think the Hemi thing is anything, but then says, that's for you to decide, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When she was referring, that's for you to decide, she meant that's for the police.
Objection. It calls for speculation as to what she meant.
Rephrase, let us sustain that portion.
Did you take that as meaning that was for the police to decide how much further investigation needed to be looked into in regards to Hemi Newman?
That's a fair assumption.
Okay. One last question, sir. Early on in the interview of the 19th, when you were talking about the computer and how long you might have to keep the computer for, you made reference to this possibly being a death penalty case if anyone were apprehended, correct?
Yes, I was, based on the nature and before speaking to the DA's office, that was the absolute toughest penalty that somebody could serve for a murder.
Okay. Now, this was your first murder case, is that correct?
That's correct.
Had you ever been involved in a case in which the death penalty was sought prior to that, sir?
No, I had not.
And after having advised, was Mrs. Sneiderman, Andrea, there when you made the comment about the death penalty?
I believe she was.
Did she show up 6 days later or 5 days later in the Dunwoody Police Department?
Yes, she did.
Did she talk to you for, gosh knows, a good 3 hours, if not longer?
Absolutely.
Did she have an attorney with her?
No, she did not.
Nothing further.
You may redirect if you wish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective Thompson.
Hello.
Let me ask you a question. We watched the video of the interview from your interview with the defendant on November 24th of 2010.
Yes.
And we also listened to the audio of the discussion/interview that happened on the 19th of November of 2010.
Yes.
Did you know, Detective Thompson, that on the day that you interviewed her at her house, she actually suspected that
Your Honor, I'm going to object to any sort of leading question as to what he knew.
You want to sustain that objection? Rephrase that question, Counsel. Just ask a question that does not suggest the answer.
Did you know, Detective Thompson, what her thoughts were about Hemi Newman on the day that she spoke to you on November 19th, 2010?
After I specifically asked her a question about Hemi Newman, that's when I found out that that incident occurred previously, one-time incident, and
Your Honor, I'm going to object. This answer is completely and totally, I'm objecting. This answer is completely and totally unresponsive to the question that was posed.
Well, I'm going to overrule that objection. I'm going to let him at least try to strike. I'm going to let him complete his answer.
Okay.
Go ahead and complete your answer, and I'm listening to you.
yes, sir. Advising that it was a one-time pass, and she told me that Hemi was clear. Those were her thoughts.
Did you have any idea on November 19th, 2010, whether or not she suspected Hemi in the death of her husband?
No, I did not.
Did you have any idea on the 24th of November of 2010 whether she suspected Hemi in the death of her husband?
No, I did not.
Did she ever tell you on the 19th that she suspected Hemi in the death of her husband?
No, she did not.
Did she tell you on the 24th of November of 2010 that she suspected Hemi in the death of her husband?
No, she did not, and she specifically said that she doesn't believe Hemi had anything to do with it.
And is that when we saw the portion in the interview where she said, this Hemi thing is nothing?
Absolutely.
Now let me ask you, I want to clear up something from yesterday when we heard the audio tape of the 19th.
Yes, ma'am?
There was a portion of the conversation where we were talking about Rusty's rings and his personal effects and where they may be.
Yes?
Do you remember where you said they may be?
At the medical examiner's office.
Okay, the medical examiner's office. Or did you call it something other than the medical examiner's office?
ME's office.
ME's office. I wanted to make sure you didn't say Hemi's office.
No, ME, for
Okay.
medical examiner.
Okay. You also, during that discussion, talked to the family at the end of that conversation about having to take the computer.
Yes.
Were you able to just kind of say, I need the computer and get it, or did you have to really kind of explain to them why you needed the computer?
I received some verbal resistance about when I could take the computer and felt the need to explain why I needed to take the computer so I could maintain a good disposition with the family instead of just saying, I don't care what you think, I'm taking it, and possibly ruin any further interviews I might have with them in the future.
So you gave them an explanation as to why you needed to take it.
That's correct.
And tell us why you needed to get that computer that day, Detective.
Because I did not know what was on the computer. I did not know if it had any vital evidence, text messages, emails, pictures, anything on it. So we had to take whatever computers we could get from the house and verify if there was anything vital for the investigation.
And when you talked about needing to get it to preserve information, you talked about the integrity of the information?
Yes.
Tell us what you meant by that.
Without being a computer expert, any information on a computer, when it's saved, has some sort of time date stamp record with it. And any time that file is manipulated, it updates when that file has been manipulated, changed, looked at in some way, in some fashion. And any file that indicates that it was accessed is a good word for it. Any file that indicates it was accessed after the homicide, we don't know if we're looking at the original information that occurred before the homicide, if it was altered in any way, in any kind of fashion.
And would manipulated also include deletions?
Yes, it would.
Now, the conversation that you had about the computer, what was the date that you had that computer? Excuse me, that conversation?
On the 19th.
And Rusty's murder was on what day?
The day prior, the 18th.
So from the 18th until the 19th, do you know where that computer was?
I don't know where the computer was. I was assuming it was in the house. It was in the house on the 19th when we collected it.
And you didn't have it on the 18th, did you?
I did not.
Do you know what, if anything, would have happened with that computer between the 18th and the 19th?
Anything could have happened. They did mention that they attempted to copy family photos from the computer.
So actually, you did have information that they had access to the computer.
Yeah, they did have access to the computer.
And during the course of that discussion / interview, did the defendant actually indicate whether or not she thought you were going to ask for the computer when you guys finally came?
Yeah, she was afraid that we were going to come in and take everything from the house and basically not allow her to conduct her household business that she felt she needed to do.
Do you know, well, strike that. When you came to the home on the 18th, this is the day before you actually spoke to the family.
Yes.
What was the purpose of coming out to the home?
The purpose was to enter the house and look for any evidence that we deemed would be appropriate to collect for the investigation of the homicide.
So for purposes of investigating the homicide?
For purposes of investigation.
Now, do you remember yesterday, or may have actually been this morning, Mr. Clegg asked you, when you showed up to the house on the 18th, were you aware of the fact that that was the day that the defendant learned that her husband had been shot? Do you remember Mr. Clegg asking you that question?
Vaguely.
Do you remember him asking you, well, when you showed up on the 18th, that was in fact the day that the defendant found out, that her husband was dead?
Oh, yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
When you showed up on the 18th, the purpose of the visit was to do what?
To investigate the death of Rusty Sneiderman.
And to try and do what? To find out what?
To figure out who did it.
And that was the day it happened, is that correct?
That's correct.
You had a sketch done, and Mr. Clegg showed you the sketch.
Yes.
I think you actually chose the one that you thought best represented what the three witnesses described. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you talked a little bit about what happens with the sketch.
Yes.
Once it's done, once it's rendered. You said something about a press release or media release. Tell us what that means as it relates to the sketch. What happens with the sketch?
Our public information officer will take a copy of the sketch, place it on a computer file, type up a release that he does a batch mail send to the news media and social media to notify them that this is what we're looking for. If you want any further questions or you want to do a story on this or you have anything else, notify me, basically. And then it also gets sent out to Facebook, Twitter, all the social medias that the Dunwoody Police Department is a member of to try to get the information out to as many people as possible.
So it's disseminated?
It's disseminated to as much as we can do.
You told us that you actually showed the defendant a copy of the sketch, or the actual sketch. Is that
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
When you showed her the sketch, did she ever say anything to you about it?
She really wanted me to try to remove the beard from the sketch.
What about the eyes? Did she say anything about the eyes to you?
I honestly don't remember if she said anything about the eyes. The beard is the thing that sticks out in my mind.
Would you have made a note of it? Did you make a note about the reference to the beard?
I'd have to look at my notes if I actually did that,
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's what you remember?
but that's what I remember.
Now, the tape that we listened to yesterday, how long would you say it was?
Approximately 2 hours.
And out of the 2-hour time frame, 2 hour or so time frame, how much time did you spend talking about the defendant and or her boss?
A few minutes.
I'm sorry?
A few minutes.
A few minutes. So out of the 2 hours, the majority of the time was spent talking about business dealings and other individuals, is that correct?
That's correct.
And again, during that time, did you have any idea about her feelings as it related to Hemi and the death of her husband?
Her feelings were communicated when she advised that she told him that she wasn't interested in him and the relationship wasn't going to happen.
To my question. Did you know anything about her feelings as it related to Hemi and the death of her husband?
No, I did not.
Did she ever tell you whether or not she thought Hemi was capable of doing such a horrible thing?
Well, she did say she didn't think he was capable.
She told you she didn't think he was capable, correct?
That's correct.
Did you know whether or not she actually thought he was capable?
No, I did not.
And during the discussion about Hemi and the boss, we heard on the tape a male voice ask if she needed them to step out so that she could discuss it in private.
Correct.
So she had an opportunity on the 19th of November to discuss anything in private. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did the two of you step out or ask others to step out so that you could have a private discussion about her boss and the relationship with her boss?
No, we did not.
Really love someone, you can feel it.
Yes.
And Mr. Clegg actually asked you a few minutes ago whether or not you specifically asked about those people.
That's correct.
Did you specifically ask, or did she volunteer that information?
It was volunteered.
And in fact, were other details volunteered as well about those individuals?
A lot of information was volunteered.
The names of their spouses?
Yes.
Where individuals went to school?
Yes.
Did you ask that information, or was it volunteered?
It was volunteered.
So when Mr. Clegg asked you whether or not you specifically asked those questions and you said yes, was it something that you specifically asked, or was it something that came up throughout
A lot of the questions was something that came up, and they were some of the information was volunteered through direct questioning. It evolved through the answers.
Mr. Clegg asked you this morning about Alex Figueroa. You remember that line of questioning where he asked you about Alex Figueroa, Jimmy Tanner, Pamela Kahn, Cliff Clark and his wife? Do you remember
Yes.
that portion of the questioning? How much time did you spend interviewing those individuals as a result of the interview that you had with the defendant?
That was the primary focus of my investigation at that time. It was a lot of time.
And why was that?
Because of all the information I had received to that point, The most logical path for me to pursue or possible motive was somebody that had been lost everything financially as a result of something that Rusty did. And during Rusty's employment discovery point, one of the last people that had anything to do with Rusty, this particular individual was convinced to invest her life savings into a Discovery Point franchise office. It failed. She lost everything and had to move from the state, I believe, back to Arizona, and her son stayed here. With that information, it made sense to me that maybe the son got really angry that his mother has just been decimated financially and wanted to get back at the person that did it, and in this case, that would have been Rusty.
So what you just articulated to us, in law enforcement terms, is that what's called a motive?
That would be a motive.
And based on the information you were given on the 19th of November, were you trying to take the facts, as Mr. Clay put it, and take those facts and develop a motive for why someone would want to shoot and kill Rusty?
Yes, I did.
And the facts that were given to you by the defendant are the facts that you used to develop a motive. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So let me ask you about some other facts. I'm going to ask you if she told you about these facts.
Okay.
Did she tell you about the fact that she and her boss had a relationship other than a friendship at work?
No, she did not.
Did she tell you that when she and her boss traveled, that individuals actually saw the two of them kissing?
No, she did not.
Would that be a fact?
That would be a material fact.
What about emails? Did she tell you, not about, say, her emails, but did she tell you about emails her boss sent her?
No, she did not.
Would that be a fact, Detective Thompson?
Yes, it would be.
How about whether or not she told you that her boss had professed his love for her? Did she tell you that?
No, she did not.
Would that be a fact?
That would be a significant fact.
Did she tell you whether or not her boss had asked her to consider marrying him?
No, she did not.
Would that be a fact?
Yes, it would.
There was discussion in the video that we saw this afternoon about the trip to Longmont.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do.
In fact, I think the defendant actually listed the trips that she had taken for work.
She did.
And in the list of trips that she listed, she included Longmont, Colorado. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you know, based on what she told you, whether or not Hemi Newman went to Longmont, Colorado while she was there?
She advised that that was the only trip that Hemi did not go with her.
So she said he did not go with her.
That's correct.
Did she tell you whether or not he was there while she was there?
She did not.
Let me ask you if she told you this fact, Detective. Did she tell you the fact that while she was in Longmont, Colorado, her boss attempted to send her chocolates and flowers?
No, she did not.
Did she tell you a fact that while she was in Longmont, Colorado, her boss had communicated with the hotel and tried to get a message to her?
No, she did not.
When you had the interview with the defendant, Detective, either one, did you ever learn a fact that the defendant and Hemi Newman shared a room in Longmont, Colorado?
No, never received that information.
During your investigation, were you ever advised or did you ever learn that the two of them would request adjoining rooms?
No.
Would those be facts, Detective?
Yes.
would those be facts that would have been helpful in your investigation where you were trying to figure out who shot and killed her husband?
Significantly significant.
Do you remember talking to the defendant and asking her whether or not someone had tried to break up her marriage or her family?
I did ask her that.
You remember what her answer was as it related to Hemi?
She said yes. It was her boss, Hemi Newman, and then said that she denied him and he understood, and that was it.
And do you know whether or not she ever said he never did anything to try and break up my marriage?
Yes, she said that at the conclusion of the discussion with Hemi.
So if a man asked a married woman to consider marrying him, would that be important in whether or not somebody was trying to break up her family?
Yes.
You, in the interview that we watched today, kind of summarized your understanding of what her relationship was with Hemi Newman. Do you remember that
Yes,
summary?
I do.
And you kind of, you suggested to her what your theory was as it related to what happened between her and Hemi Newman.
Yes.
Based on the information you had, what was it that, what significance, if any, did you attach to the fact that she told you that Hemi Newman had made a pass or an advance towards
Your
her?
Honor, I'm going to object to that question. It calls for this witness to offer his thought process as to a matter that is totally, and I believe his thought process is totally and completely irrelevant to the jury.
I'm going to sustain that objection. You can rephrase your question. I'm going to sustain that objection.
Yes. Did you place any significance, Detective Thompson, on the fact that the defendant told you that things stopped immediately after he made the pass out?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that as a leading question.
You want to sustain, rephrase?
What significance, if any, did you place on the information that was given to you by the defendant about the advance Hemi Newman made towards her?
At the point in time, I trusted her completely about the advancement on that because I had no further information and understood it as a man who made one mistake and for whatever reason is stopped making any kind of advancements toward her and they went on with their regular business relationship.
And at that point, Detective, did you have any reason to believe that it went any further?
I had no reason to believe that.
Now, in the interview that you conducted on the 24th of November,
Yes, ma'am?
the very beginning of that interview, you spend a good portion of the time kind of talking to the defendant about the importance of being open throughout that interview.
Yes.
Tell us why it is that you stressed the importance of being open throughout the interview.
There's a lot of reasons why I stressed it. There might be things that she is embarrassed about and might think are insignificant to the case, where during the course of my investigation might show that a certain situation might actually be significant.
Let me stop you for a minute. During your investigation, would facts about an affair be significant or insignificant?
Significant.
Okay, continue.
I also wanted her to understand that I need to know all the little secrets that might be embarrassing to her or inappropriate, and that have her understand that I won't let this information go any further than the police department trying to make her a little bit more comfortable if she did have anything more personal to tell me on that day. And through my experience, I have found that when you have a person...
Your Honor, I'm to object as to his conclusions based on his experience and whatever he is about to offer. I believe this is completely irrelevant as to what his opinion is based on his experience.
I'm going to sustain that objection. The jury has sent me hand signals. It's time for a 10-minute break. Step into the jury. It'll be 10 minutes. All rise.
And welcome back, everyone. I'm Jeff Hullinger. We continue 11 Alive's live coverage of the trial of Andrea Sneiderman, along with Stephen Byrne here, the fine attorney who has joined us most of the day. And now we are here in the prosecution with the Dunwoody detective after we spent about 3.5 hours today listening to the interview by the detective